Hello, everyone. This is part 2 of a 2-part weekly news episode. In this episode, I have got a lot of Atlanta news. I've got Real Housewives of Potomac news, Summer House, Real Housewives of New York, and what else? Oh, Next Gen NYC, of course. So make sure you take a listen. And if you're looking for part 1, go back into your feed and you should find it there. Enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities. Okay, everyone, we're back and we are going to get right into it with some Real Housewives of Atlanta news because, there's a lot going on. Okay, a lot, especially after this week's new episode that just dropped. Spoilers ahead, by the way, if you haven't watched it yet. So Angela went on Carlos King's podcast, okay, and she revealed some tidbits that I don't know if I don't know if she was allowed to do this. Like, I have a feeling she might get in trouble for this. I don't think it was like a purposeful thing or like she was trying to spoil everything, but she kind of gave a big spoiler ahead of the finale episode, unless this is not included in the finale or reunion. Either way, I just kind of wish, to be honest, like I'm kind of disappointed in it. So spoiler ahead, if you don't want to be ruined, I would go to the next timestamp, or at least, 10 minutes at least. And I just feel like it kind of puts a little bit of a damper on the finale. I mean, I'm still like interested in stuff, and I'm interested to see how it gets discussed at the reunion and all that, but it is, it is a pretty big thing. Okay, so in the most recent episode, okay, we see this guy. He comes up to Angela at the Williams-Sonoma party, and at Kelly's Williams-Sonoma event, and basically tells Angela that, I want to talk to you about your husband. And then he makes a comment about how, Charles is cheating on Angela, whatever. Okay, so that's what happened. And Kelly kicks him out of the party. Okay. And it looks pretty set up right? Like, you can tell this is some kind of setup. And Kelly ends up having her, what's it called? Security guard escort him out, and that's kind of where things get left off. And then we see in the finale, in the preview, that it looks like Charles is going to be getting upset about something, and it seems like it has to do with that guy. Okay. So Angela went on the Carlos King podcast like yesterday. And again, I wish that Carlos had not released it yet, but whatever. He does a good interview with her. And basically, Angela says that Phaedra is the one who paid this guy to say that Charles is cheating and to bring the rumor up on camera. Carlos asks Angela, how do you know this? And she says, well, he admitted it because he had a lot of things to hide that he didn't want to come to light. So he was willing to, I guess, basically sell Phaedra out and, be like, it was her, she put me up to it, etc. She paid me, whatever. Yeah, so he admitted it. So apparently he is from Athens, Georgia, which we all famously know that is where Phaedra is from, because there was that whole thing when Phaedra first came on the show that her and Nene were both from Athens, or that they at least like lived there, or at least Nene lived there for a period of time, went to high school there. And, Nene was kind of like not wanting to admit that she knew Phaedra from Athens, although Nene says like they weren't friends, like they didn't know each other like that, but it's like you just know kind of like who people are, right? So it was a little different. Anyways, the point is that Angela says she doesn't know anyone from Athens, Georgia. She's never known anyone from there. So the fact that this guy also happens to be from there, and apparently he is the brother of a girl so his sister went to high school with Phaedra. Okay, so there you go. So if we needed any more evidence, and this does make sense because in relation to something Angela said on Watch What Happens Live. So she was on Watch What Happens Live, and Andy asked her, where was it? Um, basically he asked her about like the whole rumor, etc. And kind of she says like she got to the bottom of it, and he asks how, and she kind of makes a comment that like they know people like her and Charles, and they talk about this on the show and how they like went and like spoke to this person, and how she has like people like looking out for her and all this kind of stuff. So it makes sense. Like clearly, they went, they spoke to this guy, maybe put a little pressure on him, just like, you need to tell us. And he sang like a canary. Okay, so that seems to be it. Now, am I shocked at this? No. My first thought when I saw this go down on the show was this is a very old school housewives move. Like right away, I was like, this was Phaedra. And not just because it's Phaedra, but this is just an old school type of move, like where you bring some random person in to like bring it up at a party. What, I don't know. It just like, yeah, it's just like old school housewives tomfoolery. And here's the thing though, it was so sloppily done. Like, I was like, Phaedra, you've lost your touch. Like, there's no finesse happening here. It was just a mess. Anyways, Phaedra hasn't changed. And that's what a lot of people, I think, are seeing and pointing out. Not that I don't know who thought she did. I never thought she did. Did I find her entertaining on the Traders? Yes. Did I ever think she should be brought back to Housewives or any of these shows? Personally, no. I mean, but that being said, uh, am I enjoying kind of this back and forth that's going on now? Yeah, kind of. But my problem with Phaedra is I feel like I worry that she just doesn't know when to stop, and that she's going to take it too far at some point again, because Phaedra will do that. And it's also like, why are you trying so hard with Angela? Like, you don't even know the woman. You claim you didn't even know Charles was married. So it's like, why are we like, it just seems a little mean and just vindictive so fast. I don't know. And maybe it's producers. I don't know. Maybe producers were like, nothing's happening, Phaedra, make something happen. So maybe she did it. I don't know. That honestly, that could be it. It really could be. So also on Watch What Happens Live, Angela, in response to Phaedra saying she looks old, says Phaedra should run by a mirror. And has she ever seen how she came into Housewives? I'm assuming she says came in. I'm assuming she means when Phaedra first came on Housewives, because everybody kind of talks about how like, Phaedra was not as hot as she is now. Like she's certainly like had a glow up. So she says, she came in looking kind of old. So I'm assuming that's what she was talking about. And yeah, sorry, Phaedra, but like, who are you to make a comment about Angela's looks? And like, if you want to go after her after getting to know her and there's things you don't like about her, but like, why are you coming in and leading with appearances? It's just very, I don't know. It's very like 10 years ago. And I just feel like, again, like Phaedra's just learned nothing. So there you go. Um, where else was I? So Angela had said to Andy before her first Watch What Happens Live, I guess she did have one like early in the season, and people liked her, but like it was very soon in. So there wasn't like the established like fandom and like stands and stuff that there are now. And she said that, she said to Andy before the last Watch What Happens Live, like, what am I doing here? Why did you guys cast me? And Andy is like, can you believe, like, look how far you've come. You're fan favorite. Everyone loves you, like, etc. And she's like, kind of pinching herself, which it was so nice to see that. It was just really nice to like watch her go from like unsure of herself, and, she didn't know how she was going to come off. And again, like, I think that's why she came off so well, because she didn't go in like trying to create the persona and trying to like tell us who she was. Instead of telling us who she was, she just was who she was. And that's the problem with people like Brit, you know, who these people who come off super inauthentic is instead of just being who they are, they try to tell us they're someone, and they often try to tell us they're someone that they're not. And it's obnoxious and inauthentic. So, Angela, you're doing amazing, sweetie, as the meme says. Okay, so Charles was the bartender. I think Charles is loving this whole housewives thing, okay? I just want to say that right now. I think that Charles at first was like, what the hell is this? I'll support my wife because she wants to do this and I have to support it, and you know, she's not giving me a choice. And the first time he was on Watch What Happens Live, like he seemed fine. Like he didn't seem like he was like pissed off to be there or anything. He was just kind of sitting in the audience, whatever. This one, he was the bartender. He looked like he was having a great time. He was answering all the questions. He was talking more than I think I've ever seen him talk on the whole show, period. So I think he is loving this, okay? And I also think that Angela's stock has kind of gone up. Like I think he is seeing that his wife is the star now and how much everybody loves her. And maybe it's like, hello, like, look at what you have. Hello. At least that's what I'm projecting and I hope, because I feel like he needs to be more expressive with his love, like for her. Not because like just somebody has to do that. I just want the best for Angela. Okay. I just love Angela. So the ring. Charles. Oh, no, sorry. First they asked Charles about her, like how she did on Atlanta. He says she did a great job. And he says she was like the fresh meat for the alligators. I'm assuming he means the other women like coming after her or whatever with the cheat. That's how I took it. Andy's face was like, what? So he's like, she was like, you know, like that when they give that big raw chicken to the alligators. I was like, of course he's going to make a food analogy, even if it is alligators eating. And then Andy asks him about his ring. He says he wears it sometimes, but he says his hands get swollen and his hands are mangled. And then Angela's like, show them your hands. And he's like, no. And then he says he does wear it, just not always. Andy asks if it bothers Angela, and she says it used to bother me, but now we've got such bigger things to argue about. And Andy's like, oh, okay. Which I mean, I also raised an eyebrow. I was like, Angela, I don't think that sounds as good as you think it sounds. But that being said, again, this is why she's a great housewife, because she can't help but letting all these truths slip out all the time, even when she's trying to be like, our marriage is good. Like she just ends up telling us that it's not that good. So yeah, stay on the show forever, please. Okay, now Angela's not the only one doing interviews because Phaedra did an interview with Entertainment Tonight, and she was asked about Britt not showing up to the reunion. She basically said they didn't know until they were there, and that she thought she was going because, you know, she knew that like Britt had gone to get like a manicure pedicure. So I don't know, maybe it was like a last minute decision. I don't know. She says, sometimes when you're on these shows, you have to sit in the fire at the reunion, and that she's had to do that multiple times. But she says that sometimes people get into the show and they don't really understand what it comes with because it can be, you know, a lot more intense and a lot harder than people, I guess, initially think it's going to be, which I do think that that's true. I think the other thing is that a lot of people go into it and they think they're going to be the hero. People are going to like them. It's going to go in a certain direction. And then when it doesn't, they can't handle it, especially somebody who seems as insecure and fragile as I think Britt is. I don't think Britt is secure with who she is. I don't think she's secure with a lot of things about herself. It seems like her finances, her, you know, I don't know, her family situation. There just seems to be a lot of things that she's kind of covering up with like you know, her big mouth basically. And you know, for somebody who can talk a lot of game, it's like when somebody says something back to her, it's like she can't handle it a lot of the time. So, I mean, like, look how she melted down just about the whole Kenya thing. And that was pretty wild. So yeah, that's basically it for that interview with Phaedra. Meanwhile, Portia did a big kind of cover story in People magazine about her finally finalizing her divorce. And a few quotes from it. She said, when I was married to Simon, I loved taking care of him. I got him breathing right. I got him looking right. I cooked for him, and I don't regret it. That's who I am. I thrive being a wife and mom and taking care of my family. But when it ended, I had to do something with that love, and I decided I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I started giving it to me. I didn't expect today to be emotional, but the moment I sat down at the vanity and started brushing my hair, just like Angela in the movie, it hit me. I've prettied up the ugly in my life too when it wasn't so pretty, and I'm done doing that. So the Angela Bassett, she is who she's referring to when she says Angela, because, she's doing this whole photo shoot where she's kind of like dressed like Angela Bassett and all those iconic scenes from Waiting to Exhale. And yeah, I'm okay. Anyways, I don't know. A lot of people have things to say about that in the comments, including, well, in that movie, Angela is like her husband leaves her for another woman, and you were the other woman who, he left his wife for. So, you're not the Angela Bassett. So, there's a lot of people who've got some critiques of this, of course. Portia also says that he, as in Simon, provided her with a safety net given their 17-year age difference. She said, I've been hurt really bad in different situations. I felt defenseless. I've been lied to. I've been asked to change who I am and have not felt heard. Sorry. But Simon, he was settled in his life. And the biggest thing he used to stress to me was how he had grown. He was very upfront about the things he did in his past relationships and how he had worked on himself. I felt very protected by him. I felt like I met someone I could trust. Okay. So you knew though that he'd had 4 marriages, and this is the thing is like, there are some things in this situation that Portia can be a victim of. Maybe like his criminal activity, him lying about that kind of stuff, fine. Like some of that, or like even if he's been shady and stuff like that, like you can be kind of a victim of that, or we can have some sympathy for you in that sense. But like the whole like, I believed that he had changed and he'd grown and this, that, the other, like I mean, it's kind of like, are you at this age still believing that the guy who left his other way younger, beautiful wife for you after you were in her home is somehow different? How can he have changed when he just did that again with you? And also, I can't even give you that much grace for the financial, criminal, maybe aspects of it, because it's like, where did you think all the money's going from? Like, I guess maybe he probably has some like legitimate business covers and stuff, but like, it just seemed like Portia wanted a rich older guy that was gonna like take care of her, and it kind of seemed like she was keeping up with the Joneses being Shamia, and she just wanted it right away. And yeah, I mean, this is what, like, kind of, this is her second marriage, third kind of serious. Is it second or third? No, I think it's second, because she didn't actually marry Dennis. But it does seem like Portia can't really be without a man for that long. And I think that inherently is one of the problems that she needs to deal with and seek help and therapy for. And again, like, she always comes off very insecure to me, even when she's trying to pretend she's not. And I think, she could get to a place of security and growth, but I haven't seen her like really do the work in any real way. It's just like, let me jump from like man to man to man. And all of them are problematic in a different way, if we're going to be honest. And, maybe she needs to stop and ask herself why she keeps choosing them. Listen, I'm not saying the men are not without fault and that these aren't like bad men necessarily who are, Cordell was an asshole. This guy's an asshole. Dennis cheated. Like these are not perfect people, but you can only control yourself. That's the truth. You can only control yourself and your picker going forward. And there's no 100% guarantee. You could think you have a good one, could end up not being good. But I mean, I think Simon, it was pretty clear that he was maybe not good. So Portia says her sense of security was short-lived after she uncovers what she calls complex issues with his legal status. She knew the relationship was headed down a dark road, so she hired an immigration attorney in January of 2024. She says they had a serious conversation because she was a supportive wife and wanted him to deal with it head on. She said, I got it spelled out completely by an attorney who had been in immigration for 30 years. And my conclusion was, I don't want you to travel. I begged him not to leave the country, but that was not honored. So I guess the thought was if he leaves, he won't be able to get back in. She says on Valentine's Day, they had a confrontation, which Williams now calls a point of no return. There was some paperwork that needed to be handled, and I wanted to bring in some attorneys to represent me, and that was frowned upon. And it wasn't really what he said. It was a look that just felt dark. I just knew I was not looking at the same person I loved before. I could tell that he was just pretty much checked out of the relationship at that point. She filed for divorce 8 days later. I mean, listen, I believe her about this moment and this look. Like, I think that, as long as you are playing his game the way that he wants you to play it, he probably is going to be pretty nice and make you feel secure. But the second that you start pushing back and having a voice and he's going to get the quote unquote look, because at the end of the day, he's going to say, I'm the man in this relationship and the husband. And when it comes to the legal stuff and the financial stuff, I say how it goes, and that's it. And I give you your allowance that we agreed to because you quit the show, and that's it. And I think that's it, right? So she says, honestly, I feel like I filed before I was ready to file. I filed out of necessity to protect myself. So I don't know, maybe if she was still with him, she could have been, I don't know. This one, I would think he would feel like it was a blindside for him. He was so used to me always finding a way to compromise what's best for me. And this time I just didn't do that. So Gobadia tells people they had, quote, no issues as a couple, and Williams is, quote, citing issues that happened in his past. I have spent the better part of 35 years of my life making up for it. So I guess whatever legal, immigration, etc. issues he's trying to say are in his past and that he's tried to make up for it. Portia says she protected herself financially. She says, in my past, I was really naive and gave up everything to be married. Okay, again, Portia, you make it too easy here. Like, you make it too easy for us to criticize. Okay. You kind of did the same thing here. Like, no, in this, you protected yourself better financially, I guess. I'll give you that, I think. But in terms of giving up everything to be married, in some ways you did do that. You did quit the show. You did give up, your kind of thing that, because it's not just about money. It's about what makes you feel like a whole you, what gives you confidence, what gives you a brand, a name, a this, a that. And, similar to Alexia on Real Housewives of Miami, these kind of guys want you to quit the show because that's something they can't control. So you did kind of give that up. Like, you gave up a piece of yourself and your independence by doing that. So she says, I was naive. I gave up everything to be married. This time I came in as a businesswoman, a person who had built a substantial financial portfolio. I did a prenup. I was responsible. So in a way, that due diligence made it a softer landing to walk away. Okay, so I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that she got her kind of stuff together financially in terms of this prenup. That is good. I will give her that. Okay. Now, I would argue the last time she was married, she didn't need to do that because she didn't have anything. So like, it's kind of easy to say that when you married Cordell and he was the NFL star, and like, maybe you didn't get a prenup. So I don't know if you walked away with anything or not. I think she did. I'm trying to remember, but like, he would have been the one with more to kind of quote unquote protect, I guess. Right. Not saying that she doesn't deserve some money after being married to him, because I think all women do. Um, okay. So she says, in terms of talking about it on the show, he had sent the cease and desist. He filed a defamation lawsuit. So it all prevented her from filming in the home. As we know, he made it difficult for her to be transparent. She said, I gave updates, but when it came to the real dark side of it, I shied away from it. The things that were happening on the show, they really aren't connected to who I am. I'm not saying it's not real, but that's like a small part of my reality. I watched the show and I'm like, I filmed that. I said that. I did that. What viewers didn't see was that I never left my room. I was so depressed and I couldn't move. I spent all of my time crying it out. I mean, she could have showed that. Like, I mean, I understand not showing that, certainly. Um, but she could have shown more of the crying and the vulnerable side. I actually think viewers would have connected with that. I don't think, like, I think Portia still kind of feels like she has to like put on a show and be like funny and and like oh my god like all the time and I think people would connect with her more if she didn't always do that. Maybe like she had her moments this season, but yeah, like she talked about her emotions in a kind of roundabout, vague kind of way, and I don't know, I guess that's all she felt she could do. So yeah, I guess at least that portion of her life is kind of, I don't know, wrapped up for now. Okay, so let's go on to Kenya, because Kenya on her, YouTube kind of after show made a comment saying that Portia Williams was never supportive of Shamia being a housewife. And she also says, what I see with Shamia and Portia is jealousy. She says that she has spoken to them about this and she knows that it is a thing in their relationship. And Portia, she has heard Portia say in the past that she didn't want Shamia as a housewife. So there you go. Which I do believe that. Not because Kenya's saying it, I just believe it. Because I just believe that this is Portia's thing, and I understand her not wanting to share it with her best friend, especially her best friend who's married to a rich guy, has like, the second most expensive house in Atlanta, and has, a much more kind of glamorous together life that I think Portia envies. Like, I could see her not wanting that on the show up against her. I mean, now she has no choice, but I think, yeah. Meanwhile, Kelly spoke on Britt Eady suing Bravo, and she said to TMZ that it's very clear some of us might need help paying some bills, and that the reunion felt incomplete without Kenya and Britt. Thank you for saying that, because Phaedra's just like, the reunion was so good. It was fiery. It was this. It's like, no, admit that we were missing like the two people who had maybe some of the most drama this season. It's okay to admit that. Okay, we'll keep pushing forward, but we need to admit that. It's just like it's a lot. I still can't believe she didn't show up. Oh, it's so annoying. And I'm hearing that Britt didn't even really file the lawsuit. Okay, so Giorgio says on TikTok and Instagram basically that the lawsuit by Britt never was actually filed. So as of now, there is not even a lawsuit. And apparently it's something to do with like she didn't like pay what she needed to pay to file the lawsuit or something like that. So this is all just a ridiculous joke. This season is really, it's just not, yeah, it's not giving what it's supposed to be giving. I'm still enjoying the season. I have to be honest. I still really like the season. To me, Angela has saved the season. To me, like I enjoyed the whole Charity conflict with Shamia and Britt. I'm enjoying this stupid inauthentic storyline with Phaedra trying to get this guy to say Charles cheated. I still find that entertaining. I still think it's kind of old schooly Housewives. I like it. I'm still enjoying it. I don't care what anybody says, period. It's still a good season. And I view it as a rebuilding season. So I'm not expecting perfection. And I think a lot of people are expecting like, season 6 level Atlanta kind of season. And like, that's just not realistic. OC had to go through like 3 or 4 bad/mediocre rebuilding years before we could get back to where we are. And now OC is in like an amazing place. And I think Atlanta is on the same track. Okay. That's my opinion. Okay. Let's get into some RHONY news because Bryn was fired/quit, but she was fired, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinions, but she is not going quietly, okay? She has had a couple headlines and quotes, one from Us Weekly saying, I was hoping that they would either fire me or I was hoping that they would cancel the show. So that is Brit's way of saying, guys, I wasn't fired, but I wish they would have fired me because then I wouldn't have had to quit. And quitting was just so difficult for me. Oh my God. No, Britt, you were fired. And this quote just makes me think you were fired even more than I already thought, which is hard because I 100% thought you were. Now I 101% think you were. When you put out a quote like this, when no one cares and no one's really asking, it's like you are desperate to prove that you were not fired. And you know that no one believes that you quit because no one does. Then she also credits Paige DeSorbo for her RHONY exit. Okay. So I guess she's trying to say like she was like inspired by how Paige like stepped down from the show. Okay, Bryn, I have to stop you. Number one, you were fired and Paige wasn't. And your leaving RHONY is just so vastly different from Paige and Summer House. I don't even know where to start. Paige was on Summer House for what, like 7 years, whatever, a long enough time that she was like a main cast member associated with the show, that, you know, her leaving was like a big deal in the Bravo world. Like, I'm not even a Paige fan. And I'm like, how are you even going to compare these two things? Like, she was a staple cast member for years on a show, by the way, that is going into its 10th season. And yes, I know technically RHONY was like continuing, but whatever. The new RHONY was only on its second season. Okay. You were only on TV for 2 seasons. You were annoying the first and you were insufferable the second. And the entire audience wanted you fired. No one liked you. Your entire cast didn't like you. This is not the same situation. Like, everyone believes that Paige quit, which makes sense because her life and her career has blown up off the show. What are you doing? You're allegedly working on some app called Hoppy that no one's really heard of, that apparently is like a startup. And we all know how long startup, like we've seen Danielle and Kyle Cook on, okay, we know that you're not just a millionaire already. So there's that. And number two, you have a podcast that you started like 5 minutes ago. So let's just, you and every other Bravo celebrity. So it's, you're not at like giggly squad level. So just calm down. Okay. Speaking of Summer House, by the way, Lindsay, the queen of Summer House, is back. And her king is also back because Kyle Cook is also returning. So, and yes, I know that they are not a couple, but they are still the king and queen of Summer House, in my opinion. So Lindsay said, be for fucking real. Of course, I'm coming back this summer. It's just going to look a little different for me since I'm a whole ass mom now. Now, again, she confirms she'll be back. Is she going to be like full time? Is she going to be more of like a friend of, etc.? I'm not sure. It sounds like full time because I feel like she would have said it. You know, and her and West are busy making all sorts of Mayo commercials, etc. So there's that. Meanwhile, in a Page 6 interview, Kyle and Amanda confirmed that they are also coming back full time. And listen, I have to be honest, I'm a little disappointed. Not that these three are coming back. I'm happy they're coming back. But what I will say is I was kind of looking forward to like a big reboot of the show. And I was also looking forward to like Lindsay being on another show. But maybe since it is like summer now, like this is when they're going to start filming, maybe they're going to do this. And then while this season is filming, they will be figuring out kind of where Lindsay's going, and they just didn't have things ready for the rest of the cast. So, maybe that's why they're kind of putting it off for one more year. And it is kind of nice, like round out the season 10 and, maybe they'll bring in some other new people and just kind of see how it goes. And yeah, I guess it makes sense. But I do think we need some kind of reboot going on over there. Meanwhile, Imrul has confirmed, that he is not coming back. He said, "Hi, y'all. I meant to share this last week, but with everything going on, the timing didn't feel quite right. I've decided not to return for another season of Summer House. I know, shocking, because he knows that we know. And you, again, you weren't asked back. Again, it's not, I don't think it's as big of a deal with Imrul because he's not like trying too hard like Bryn. He says it was an incredible opportunity and I truly had a lot of fun. I won't drag this out, but I want to say thank you for all your support and for supporting my foundation as well. A special shout out to my castmates for their generous donations and for helping spread the word." See, like Emerald's just like nice. I like him. I think he should have had another chance. It's like so cool that he opened the school like in his hometown and stuff and like got people to donate to opening. Like that's like so cool. I don't know. I just feel like he didn't get a fair shake. Overall, it was a really good experience. Would recommend. Much love, Emerald Beast. See, that's leaving on like a classy note without bitterness, without like just trying to save your ego. Like I appreciate that. That is like the opposite of Bryn's leaving. Okay. Meanwhile, last piece of Summer House news is somebody who was on Summer House for only 2 minutes, Bailey, is engaged. So remember that guy that she was dating that summer that she, allegedly kind of left the show for, or that she had like a boyfriend off the show that she was hiding and that was one of the reasons she was fired, but then other people said it wasn't because of that, it was because she was leaking information. I don't know. Either way, she's engaged, and I got to say her fiance he's a hottie. Okay? So good job, Bailey. Congratulations. I hope he has a good personality. And she says, I get to spend the oh wait, where'd it go? I get to spend the rest of my life with my best friend, showing off a beautiful engagement ring. And we barely got to know you, Bailey, but congratulations. Love that for you. All right, let's see. What else do we have? We have some Potomac news. Giselle and Monique were on their way to film together for The Real Housewives of Potomac, and some people caught some footage of this on their cell phones. And listen, you're going to hear it here first. They're going to be friends. Okay? I know there's all these people who are like, I'm so excited because Monique always held Giselle's feet to the fire. No, no, no. She did, yes. But the reason she did that is because she wanted to be friends with Giselle. And Giselle was the cool girl and she wanted in the cool girl group. But Giselle and them would never let her in, and they were mean girls to her. So since she couldn't get in, she was like, she kind of did the opposite of if you can't beat them, join them. If you can't join them, okay. No, not beat them, but like hate them. So she was like, okay, if I can't be a part of them, then I'm going to shout from the rooftops how much they suck. But now we're going to be friends. And guess what? We're both united by our absolute hatred and disdain of Candace Dillard. So trust me, if you're thinking that this is going to be a season of Monique, setting Giselle straight or holding her feet to the fire, it's not. It's going to be Monique and Giselle besties talking about how the two of them, they never had anything against each other. We actually should have always been friends. We were just clouded by that evil Candace. She got in the way. She's the reason our friendship could never blossom. She pitted us against each other. And that's why we always hated each other. But really, she was the problem. And Monique, it took you leaving and her staying for me to see that. And I'm sorry. And Monique will say, I'm sorry, Giselle. And they're going to be friends in the end. That's what's going to happen. Okay? You heard it here first. Meanwhile, Stacey Rush is proving Giselle right on another topic, because if you remember the most recent Potomac reunion, Giselle accused Stacey of starting a cannabis company, much like Happy Eddie, and not running it by Wendy or saying anything. And here we go. On June 19th, Stacey announces that she is launching a cannabis brand. and that it will be filmed for Real Housewives of Potomac. So her caption said, "Happy Juneteenth. I'm so proud to celebrate the historical legacy of this day and also make history as the first African-American woman to launch a cannabis brand in Virginia. Hashtag God is good. Hashtag still I rise." Okay. So many people are citing that Giselle was right and that she did not lie about this, nor did she lie about Mia living in Atlanta, which, yeah. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say Giselle never lies, as some are saying, because that's just not true. But she was right about this. I'll give her that. And I am sure that there is going to be some conflict this season. And people have already noticed that Wendy and Giselle have unfollowed each other on Instagram. So there's that. Okay. So take that as what you will. I don't know if that sentence made any sense. All right, I need to eat dinner. Let's talk about Next Gen NYC to end off today. So it looks like Ariana Bierman may be dodging some more phone calls from her mother because Kim Zolciak's money woes have been revealed. She owes more than $1.8 million in taxes and fees. Ariana, turn your phone off and get behind me. Okay, because Kim is coming. She's coming to borrow money. Meanwhile, in other money issues, so I'm wondering, as this show goes on, we are going to see more. Okay, we're going to see more Kim Zolciak, and we're going to see more my mom's asking me for money, more fuck off mom, more, trying to still love my mom and make the relationship work, but she's asking me for like, we're going to see more of that, which I'm down with because I'm really enjoying this show. Meanwhile, Charlie from Next Gen NYC, who, by the way, is the worst if you haven't caught up, he in 2023, it has been revealed that he filed for bankruptcy. So this was uncovered recently, and he claimed in the bankruptcy that he was unemployed with just $1,500 in his bank account and no assets. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I wonder if that is part of the reason he's on this show. I wonder if that is part of the reason that he was in that quote unquote house of horrors where they were torturing that guy for his crypto passwords, etc. I wonder if daddy and mommy have cut him off and if they are financially struggling. I don't know. Because I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard something about his dad being $20 million in debt. So that would make sense for Charlie's kind of attitude of like, I'm too good to be here. I don't want to be here, but also I have to be here. So I kind of have an attitude about it because that's how it feels with him on the show. Like he needs it, but he doesn't want to admit that he needs it. And he wants everyone to keep believing that he's just like this rich Nepo baby and he could leave the show anytime. Okay. Okay. Last thing is Andy is confirming as well that he is not an executive producer on Next Gen NYC. So there's this rumor going around that he is. He says he is not. And people are trying to say that like he's an executive producer, but he's having some beef with Gia and Teresa. He says, I'm not an executive producer. I have nothing to do with this. And I have no beef and no issues. And he says, I only have good, positive feelings for Teresa and Gia, and I love Gia on the show. Because there was some rumor going around that Gia was getting kicked off or fired or something. And Andy's like, absolutely not. What does this rumor have to do with me? Not true. Okay. So just to confirm that with everyone. Okay, everyone, that is it for part 2. So if you missed part 1, check back on your feed and you should find it there. And thank you so much for supporting the show, for listening. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe. And until next time, you are now in the know for everything Bravo. Bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. Your support really means everything to me. And this show wouldn't be possible without you, the listeners. So please, if you enjoyed the podcast, leave a 5-star rating and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more, you can join my Patreon, patreon.com/Bravo and Botox. And for $5 a month, you'll get 4 extra podcast episodes a month. You'll also get early releases of Bravo Paper episodes and more. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Bravo Papers and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Bravo and Botox and at the Bravo Papers. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, you can at buymeacoffee.com/Bravo and Botox. You know, send your love through some much needed caffeine. And any guest that was on today's episode will be in the show notes, all their social media and contact information. So thank you so much, everyone. Keep overanalyzing Bravo.